Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Coach's Corner. I am your host, Wes McKinney, and today we have on set head football coach here at Concord, Coach Garin Justice. Coach, good to have you on today.
Nice to be here, Wes.
Coach, you guys start spring ball here in just a little less than a week, Tuesday, April 2nd to be exact. You guys won 5 of your last 6 games to finish out the year. How do you guys carry that momentum from the fall into this spring and then ultimately into the start of the new season?
Yeah, it's you hear Nick Saban always refer to the process, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Just our workouts have been the best they've been since I've been here. Guys are getting stronger. Guys are improving every day. We were through injuries. At the beginning of the season, we weren't very inexperienced, but through injuries, we became inexperienced really quickly. So there's some momentum gathered there just for the fact that now my offensive tackle, who's 250, is now 275 and on down the line. So we're getting better developmentally as far as physically we're coming along, and also guys are just learning how to work and do things the right way all the time.
Okay, you guys went through some quarterback shuffling last year, of course, with the injury with Zach Grossi, then to Albert Rose, then to Evan Dussault. What's the situation like coming into spring ball?
Well, we have to find one we know we can definitely win with and feel great about. Albert started a couple games for us last year, and at moments he looked very good. Looked very good as a quarterback, but he still showed some signs of being young, still made some young mistakes. So Albert's only going to get better. So we feel good about his development, where he's going to be. Also, we have Brian Novak, who's a freshman we feel really good about as well. So those guys are going to compete this spring for the job and see who the best man is. And I don't know if we'll even have that decision when spring ball's finished, but we're going to give them equal reps. We're going to see which guy's ready to take over for a guy like Zach Grossi, who has big shoes to fill.
Last year, the offensive line was already thin. You lose more guys to graduation. What did the coaching staff do in the offseason to help replenish that position that was a little bit thin?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit, just talking about how we got bigger. You lose C.J. Tullio, Mitch Harrison, Cody Smith. Those are 3 seniors that played a lot of football for me up front. Now, some of those guys got injured last year. We started a total of 8 offensive linemen last year. So there's 5 starters in-house who started a game. So that's the good news. The bad news is you lose some of those guys, but also those guys were all freshmen, sophomore last year. Now those guys are going to be a year older. They're going to be a year smarter. They're going to just be better players just through maturation, just through what we do in the weight room. And you look at a guy like Tyler Kerr, who didn't play much last year, and he was 265 pounds during the last season. Now he's 295. So just by that, he's a guy that you're going to look at and be like, wow, that guy's really came along. That guy's really developed. And I feel better about our depth. I think we will be a better offensive line. And the good news is this group's still young. I don't have a senior up front next year, and I'll be able to have this group for the next 2 years, which is something pretty special as an offensive line.
Okay, Steve Adams, your co-defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach. Moving on to Nichols State in Louisiana, how do you replace a guy like Coach Adams, and then what are your plans to replace him?
You know, Coach Adams is a great coach. He brought a lot to our defense as far as what we did in the secondary. Did a lot with the special teams games and did an excellent job in recruiting. He's a coach that we're going to miss, a guy that we really appreciated the time that we had him here. There's a lot of multiple answers for that. The first answer is we have Tracy Gravely, who's already been in the secondary. He's familiar with the players. He's a guy that was the secondary coach before I even came here. So he played here. He's familiar with everyone. So he's going to be an integral part in that. Also, we have Kevin Elliott, who was a safety that played for us last year, did an excellent job. Those 2 are kind of going to tag team and kind of fill those shoes where Steve's at. And that's our immediate answers. Long-term answers, we're not 100% sure where we're going to go right now with that. But we feel those 2 guys will do a great job this spring.
You've already touched base on this a little bit, but who are some guys that really stood out in the weight room of this offseason?
Well, I'm not going to name the normal names because Devon Marion, Jake Lilly, those guys do a great job week in and week out. I want to talk about some of the younger guys. Probably the strongest guy on our team, pound for pound, is Jacory Robbins, who kind of split some time at tailback last year with Calvin All Jones, and Jacory is one of the strongest, most physically gifted guys you'll see, and he's a guy that's high end. Another guy you see is Jonathan Hagens, who we signed out of Roanoke last year, and Jonathan's a guy that you didn't really see him much in the fall, but now you start noticing things he does, and a lot of it's because he's doing the work every single day in the weight room. And then you have you have other guys who are just the biggest thing I'm noticing is our guys are just getting. Everyone's getting better. I mean, Cody Parker told me he went up 150 pounds in his hang clean. So guys are buying in. Guys are doing the right things, and it's hard to single guys out because I feel that strongly about the whole team.
Okay, you lose a wealth of talent and a wealth of leadership from last year's team. Who are some rising seniors you're expecting to kind of step up into leadership roles to fill the roles of a Kevin Elliott, of a Nate Pollard, of a Zach Grossi?
Well, I mean, Devon Marion technically is a junior next year, but Devon's been here longer than anyone else, and he's just as old as anyone else. So Devon's was a leader last year. Devon's a guy that we're all going to look to leadership to. He's a guy that can lead offensive players as well as defensive players. So Devon's a big leader and has done an excellent job with that. Jake Lilly, who is Conference Defensive Player of the Year, has led the conference in tackles the last few years. He gained some respect just from what he's done on the field. Riyad Richardson's a guy that gained some respect from what he's done on the field. And we have others. I mean, guys like Josh Clark, Chris Rodriguez, those guys have played a lot of football. Maybe not have been that primetime guy or that all-conference guy, but they've played a lot of good football here and helped us win games. Those guys are very well respected in our locker room. Offensively, we need to have some younger guys step up because we do have a lack of seniors. We have Larry Thompson at tight end, who's a guy that came onto the team last year. So he kind of is now feeling like a sophomore or junior, even though it's his last year of eligibility. And then you have Albert Rose and Brian Novak. The quarterback, you're in position, you always have to lead from that position. And those two guys have done a nice job with that so far. On the offensive line, Cody Parker's got to be a guy that steps up and leads. And then probably our most experienced group on the team is our wideouts with Ryan Stewart and DJ Holmes and Derek Williams. And those guys have played a lot of ball. Tyler Smith. And so I don't know if we have that headline leader we had last year with maybe a Zach Grossi, but I think you have a good core foundation of 10 to 15 guys who are all going to step up and call people out when they're doing the wrong things.
Who are some guys that maybe didn't see a lot of playing time in the fall, but are really going to see some significant repetition here in the spring?
Yeah, Alston Dotson's probably the first name that comes to mind. Alston was a guy that we started off at fullback, then moved him to our rush linebacker position, and now this spring we're moving him back to Mike linebacker and inside to try and fill in where Jimmy Keating and Zach Gibbons before him really played. And Alston, you talk about the weight room, he may be the strongest guy on the team. And he's just a freshman, so it's hard to put a lot of stock into him, but he's a guy that we're expecting to see a lot of minutes next fall. I touched on Tyler Kerr, a guy who was our short snapper on field goal and played some mop-up duty. Him along with Sean Myers have got a good chance. One of those guys are probably going to be the starter at right tackle next year. So those are two guys that really jump out as being guys that are going to make an impact. Another name is Mike Carey. Mike was a corner that stepped in when Riyad got hurt earlier last year, and now he's thrust into Nate Pollard's position. He's got to step up.
All right, Coach, thanks for coming by today. Once again, Concord will start spring practice on Tuesday, April the 2nd, and it will all conclude with the spring game on Thursday, May the 2nd. Once again, for Coach Garin Justice, I am Wes McKinney, and this has been the Coach's Corner.